There was a reason Meghan Markle didn't want Prince Harry to go to war with the Daily Mail, and today we now understand why. Harry's relationship with Chelsy Davy, the true love of his life, front and centre at the High Court on day 2.
Inside the austere, wood-paneled walls of the High Court in London, a ghost has been summoned. It is not a literal spirit, but something far more dangerous to the current stability of the House of Sussex. It is the ghost of a relationship past, a romance that many royal watchers still whisper was the true love of Prince Harry's life. For years, there has been speculation about why Meghan Markle seems so resistant to Harry's continued war against the British tabloid press. Today, as the legal arguments unfold and the evidence is laid bare, we finally understand why. This trial is not just about phone hacking or illegal invoices. It is a forensic, humiliating excavation of Harry's deep, intense, and desperate love for Chelsy Davy.
But what is also central to me here is the fact that this relationship, now being in the spotlight, highlights the huge difference between Harry's current wife, Meghan Markle, and the woman who he for a long time believed was the true love of his life, Chelsy Davy.
Prince Harry is currently locked in an explosive legal battle against Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Daily Mail, and the Mail on Sunday. He has accused them of years of criminal behavior, alleging that they hired private investigators to bug his cars, tap his phones, and blag his medical records. But to prove that he was a victim, Harry has had to open the vault of his history. He has had to drag the most intimate details of his youth into the public light. And at the center of that history is not Meghan, but Chelsy. For Meghan, sitting thousands of miles away in Montecito, this must be a waking nightmare. Her husband is spending his days obsessing over his ex-girlfriend, reliving their holidays, their fights, and their heartbreaks in high-definition detail, proving to the world just how hard he fought to keep her.
But just think about the contrast here, folks. Think about why Meghan Markle is so clearly unhappy about this. Because Meghan Markle could never be said to be someone who didn't leak intimate details of her private life with Prince Harry to the media. Because she did, multiple times.
The atmosphere in the courtroom is heavy, charged with the weight of a decade's worth of secrets being spilled. Harry sits there, looking visibly older, his face etched with the stress of a man fighting a war on multiple fronts. He is listening as his lawyer, David Sherborne, reads out article after article from the mid-2000s, articles that Harry claims were obtained through illegal means. One specific example that caused a stir in the court involves a story from 2007 about a make-or-break holiday Harry and Chelsy were planning. Harry's legal team produced emails suggesting that a private investigator named Mike Burr was paid to find out Chelsy's exact flight details. We are not just talking about the destination. We are talking about seat numbers, flight times, and whether she paid cash or credit. Harry argues that this level of detail was impossible to get legally. He insists that he and Chelsy were paranoid, locking down their plans, telling no one, living in a state of constant anxiety that they were being watched.
But the fact that he would remember 19 years of what he was waiting for is just pathetic in the extreme.
This evidence paints a picture of a couple under siege, hunted by a media machine that refused to let them breathe. But it also paints a picture of a Harry who was deeply, madly in love. He was a man trying desperately to protect a woman who hated the spotlight, a woman who represented a normalcy and a freedom he craved. The court heard how Harry chased her to Africa, how he planned secret rendezvous in Argentina, and how he tried to build a fortress around their relationship. Seeing him fight this hard for the memory of Chelsy, Davy raises an uncomfortable question for the present. Is he fighting for justice, or is he fighting for the past? The defense launched by Associated Newspapers has been equally brutal, and it strikes at the heart of Harry's victim narrative. While Harry's team waives invoices for private investigators and claims criminal conspiracy, the newspaper's lawyers are hitting back with a defense that is as simple as it is damaging. They are arguing that this information didn't come from hackers in dark rooms. It came from Harry's own friends. They claim that the so-called Chelsy set, the wealthy, party-loving social circle the couple moved in, were chatty. They argue that in 2007, security was lax, people talked, and information leaked through legitimate, albeit gossipy, channels. This is the crux of the battle. Harry screams conspiracy. The Mail claims good journalism. And caught in the crossfire is Chelsy Davy, a woman who has long since moved on, married a hotelier, had a baby, and built a quiet, successful life away from the cameras. She is being dragged back into the mud by an ex-boyfriend who cannot seem to let go of the trauma of their breakup. This trial highlights the fundamental, glaring difference between the two women who have defined Harry's adult life. Chelsy Davy was the daughter of a Zimbabwean millionaire. She had money, she had status, and she had the keys to the castle. She could have been a princess. She could have had the tiaras and the tours, but she ran from it. She famously said that the royal life was not for her. She broke up with Harry because she couldn't stand the intrusion. She valued her privacy more than the title. Compare that to the woman Harry eventually married. Meghan Markle, according to her critics, chased the spotlight that Chelsy fled. She wrote a blog detailing her life to the public. She gave interviews to glossy magazines before the engagement ring was even on her finger. Chelsy left because of the cameras. Meghan arrived for them. For Harry to be sitting in court, effectively arguing that the press destroyed the best relationship he ever had because Chelsy couldn't handle the heat, is a slap in the face to his current reality. It reminds the world that he once loved a woman who didn't want the fame his current wife seems to crave. But the drama doesn't stop with Chelsy. Harry has made this crusade personal, targeting specific journalists who he believes ruined his life. He has named names: Katie Nicholl, the prominent royal correspondent and TV personality; Rebecca English, the veteran editor; Victoria Newton, the editor of The Sunday. These are the queens of the royal beat, women who have shaped the public perception of the monarchy for decades. Harry accuses Katie Nicholl of using illegal methods to find out private details about his life, such as when he was named godfather to Tiggy Leggett-Bork's child. He accuses Rebecca English of tracking Chelsy's flights with the help of private investigators. He wants their reputations destroyed. However, the defense dropped a bombshell that may have blown Harry's credibility out of the water. In a stunning twist, it emerged in court documents that Prince Harry actually invited Katie Nicholl to a private party at Kensington Roof Gardens back in 2011. This revelation sucked the air out of the room. The defense's argument is simple and devastating. You cannot call us criminals and stalkers now when you were buying us drinks then. You cannot claim we were ruining your life when you were inviting us to your parties to ensure you got favorable coverage. This paints Harry not as a helpless victim of a predatory press, but as a hypocrite who used the media when it suited his image and is now suing them because the narrative has turned against him. It suggests he was a player in the game, not just a pawn. The physical toll of this crusade is written plainly on Prince Harry's face. The photos emerging from the courthouse are startling. Gone is the California glow, the defiant energy we saw in the Oprah interview or the Netflix documentary. In its place is a man who looks exhausted, aged, and diminished. Observers in the courtroom have described him as looking haunted. If you compare photos of Harry from January 2021, fresh out of the royal family and full of bravado, to the man sitting in the witness box in January 2026, the difference is shocking. His hair is thinner, his eyes are tired, and his posture is slumped. He looks like a man carrying the weight of the world, fighting a war he has already lost, regardless of what the judge decides. This physical decline begs the question, is this the face of a happy, liberated man living his dream life in Montecito? Or is this the face of a man who realizes he burned down his castle to live in a fortress of solitude? The misery is palpable. and he is facing it alone. The absence of Meghan Markle is the elephant in the room. For a couple who branded themselves as salt and pepper, who claim they always move together, her absence is deafening. She is not there holding his hand. She is not there giving statements of support. She is an ocean away, reportedly launching lifestyle products while her husband is being dissected in a London courtroom. Sources suggest this is a strategic retreat on her part. Meghan knows a losing battle when she sees one. She knows that this trial digs up a past she cannot compete with. She knows that every headline about Chelsy Davy reminds the British public of the Harry they used to love, the party prince, the soldier, the man who was happy before the rift. By staying away, she protects her brand from the fallout, but she leaves Harry exposed. It reinforces the narrative that he is isolated, cut off from his old friends, at war with his family, and now fighting a solo battle against the entire British media establishment. Harry is not the only claimant in this massive case, though he is certainly the most vocal. He is joined by heavyweights like Elton John, Liz Hurley, and Sadie Frost. The evidence presented by the other claimants is, in some ways, even sleazier than Harry's. Liz Hurley's lawyers claim that The Sun, under the editorship of Victoria Newton, paid investigators to find out intimate medical details about her pregnancy and the paternity battle with Steve Bing. They claim journalists paid for information that should have been locked in a doctor's office. This strengthens the overall case because it shows a pattern of behavior. It proves that the tabloids in the early 2000s were operating in the Wild West, where ethics were often an afterthought. However, Harry is the only one making it a personal vendetta. Elton John isn't sitting in court every day glaring at reporters. Liz Hurley isn't giving witness statements about her paranoia. Harry is. This is his crusade. He has tied his entire identity to this battle. He believes that if he can just win this case, he can rewrite the last 10 years of history. He believes he can prove that every bad thing that ever happened to him, the breakup with Chelsy, the fights with William, the criticism of Meghan, was all the fault of the press. But the courtroom is a cold place for emotions. It deals in facts, and the facts are messy. The revelation about the blagging of flight details is a perfect example of this messiness. On one hand, it looks like an invasion of privacy. On the other hand, the defense argues that checking flight manifests is standard journalism, a way of verifying a story that is already circulating. They argue that Harry's friends were leaking the information anyway, so no damage was done. It is a legal gray area that Harry is trying to paint as black and white. He wants the world to see a criminal conspiracy. The court might just see aggressive reporting. As the trial continues, Harry is expected to take the stand again. This is a high-risk strategy. Cross-examination is brutal. The defense lawyers will try to goad him, to catch him in contradictions, to make him lose his temper. They will ask him about his own leaks to the press. They will ask him about the stories in Spare that reveal private conversations with his family. They will try to prove that he has invaded the privacy of others just as much as he claims his privacy was invaded. If he cracks on the stand, if he comes across as entitled or inconsistent, it could destroy what little public sympathy he has left. The irony of this entire spectacle is tragic. Harry says he wants to protect his privacy, yet he has launched a legal action that requires him to discuss his most private moments in a public court. He says he wants to move on, yet he is spending millions of pounds and years of his life reliving the past. He says he is happy, yet he looks miserable. The Chelsy trial, as it is quietly being called, has become a metaphor for Harry's post-royal life, a frantic, expensive, and ultimately self-destructive attempt to control a narrative that has long since spiraled out of his grasp. Meghan Markle's disdain for this process is understandable from a strategic perspective. She is about the future, the next brand, the next deal, the next relaunch. Harry is anchored in the past. This trial forces them to look backward to a time when Harry was different, perhaps happier, and certainly more loved by the British public. It highlights the road not taken. For Meghan, Chelsy Davy is not just an ex-girlfriend. She is a symbol of the life Harry gave up, a life where he was part of the inner circle rather than an exile throwing stones at the walls. The danger for Harry is that even if he wins the legal case, he loses the war, he might get a payout, he might get an apology, but he will have further alienated the press, further exhausted the public, and further isolated himself from the reality of his situation. He is fighting for truth, but the truth that is emerging is one of a man who is deeply troubled, obsessed with vengeance, and unable to find peace. The Daily Mail might lose some money, but they will survive. They have deep pockets and lawyers on retainer. But Harry, he is losing his peace of mind, one court date at a time. He is spending his emotional capital on a fight that cannot fix what is actually broken in his life. And no amount of damages awarded by a judge can buy back the years he has spent angry, bitter, and looking over his shoulder. As the day in court wraps up, and Harry exits the building to a flurry of flashbulbs, the very thing he hates most, he looks like a man who has forgotten why he started fighting in the first place. The ghost of Chelsy Davy lingers in the courtroom, a reminder of a love story that ended not because of a lack of love, but because the cost of being with Harry was simply too high. Now, looking at the toll this is taking on him, the world is beginning to wonder if the cost of being Harry is becoming too high even for himself. The trial continues, but the verdict on Harry's happiness seems to have already been delivered.